What's been the main messaging for the girls going into this next game?
Yeah, we're just trying to find some consistency with our performances. We're quite pleased with where we're sitting at the moment. But if you start ladder watching, it's not really going to get you anywhere. And then obviously there's the old adage that we're not very good at away from home, so there's a good challenge there for us as well. And then Central Coast, I think, are a very good side. They're sitting in third, so it's all there for us at the moment.
The men's team bizarrely seems to be the opposite in terms of being quite good away. Do you speak to them for any advice on how they kind of manage that?
Yeah, we share stuff, but sometimes what might work for them doesn't necessarily work for us. There's obviously a little bit of a difference with a male and a female athlete in that respect. But also they've had opportunities to arrive to games a bit earlier and stuff like that. So there's things that we need to look into going into, I would say, the next campaign. We have had one win away from home, which is more than we had last season. So there are plenty of positives in that respect. And then if you look at the other games that we've lost away, I mean, we're talking Melbourne victory away, Canberra is very hard to play at Mackellar, Sydney FC at Leichhardt. So we cut them a little bit of slack as well in that respect.
And how's Rolla Badaway? Is she likely to play?
She trained in full today, so that's a very good sign. So hopefully she pulls up okay and puts herself in the frame for selection, yeah.
You can jump in, Ben, if you like.
Yeah, Stephen, I think you're yet to beat a team above you on the ladder yet this season. Is that something you're aware of, or is that something you've put any thought into at all?
Well, Newcastle were higher than us on the ladder, so we beat them.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, fair enough.
But the teams that are currently sitting above us, we haven't beaten them.
They're in the top four. What have you seen from that squad this year? Do you feel like they've changed for the better in any way since last season?
Well, I think Central Coast are a very good outfit. I think everyone kind of forgets they're the champions. It's quite interesting that people forget that so quickly. I think they've got a good level of resilience. They seem like a together unit, and they've got some fantastic strike weapons. I think Gomez is fantastic, and Peter Trimmis and Rasmussen. So, yeah, there's some players to look out for, definitely. But we're honestly, and it's a massive cliche here, but we're just looking at ourselves and how we can improve. And we firmly believe that if we put a performance of quality that we're capable of producing, we can go toe-to-toe with anyone in the competition.
There's been as we've mentioned, a big upswing in form over the last month or so. How do you, now you're kind of coming out of the back end of that stretch where you had about 4 out of 5 games at home, how do you capitalise on that momentum and continue to pick up results, particularly on the road where, as you mentioned, you're trying a few different things and to eke out a few more away results?
I just think we try not to think about, the fact that we've won 4 out of the last 5. That's done. That's fantastic that we've achieved that, but that's in the past. Like, we can't sit there and look at that and think about how good that was. We've just got to concentrate on the next game. For us, our game is developing, and we built a very good platform for that. And I think the enthusiasm comes from that. It comes from wanting to be better every day. And I think the players are bringing that to the table. We're not going to rest at winning 4 games out of 5. We want to continue to win matches. We want to play finals football, and we want to compete.
Misha said didn't really have a response in terms of areas for improvement, but did you note any little things that you wanted to tweak from the last game?
Oh, look, we definitely got to continue to improve our attack. It was fantastic last week. It's an area that we're continuing to strive to improve in. But also in defence, like, just because we've had 3 clean sheets doesn't mean that that's done either. There's some areas that we need to improve, particularly in transition moments we have to improve. So, we just need to concentrate on those elements there. And also we need to just keep everyone healthy and firing. That's the other tricky part. particularly with now, an away trip and then 2 games pretty close together next week.
Is there one of those elements in particular in terms of on-field play that you see dip when you do play away, like attack versus defence?
It's actually a very good question. I think it's hard to quantify, to be fair. I mean, if we knew the answer, we'd probably fix it straight away. There is something there. I don't know exactly what, but we are definitely a more robust and enthusiastic side at home. So what reason that is, whether it's we've got the 12th man at Sam Kerr or whether we just can't travel well, we need to address that. But hand on heart, I feel like every game that we've travelled to, we've actually travelled well. The travel's not an excuse for us. I think it's a mindset, and we just need to overcome that mindset, which is another part of our growth as a team. And I think if we do, that whole analysis of us being super good at home but poor away, I think that'll disappear pretty quickly.
And the home crowd is a very passionate one for the Glory women. The men obviously do have a significantly bigger crowd, even though arguably the women have been better this season, more consistent. Is that something that's disappointing? Does it impact the girls? Why do you think that is?
No, I think you've got to obviously look at the growth of both games. Obviously men's football's been around in Australia since a very long time. I think it's the 50s, I think. So obviously that's had a lot of time to develop a fan base and a culture. I think with the women's game, I think the most important thing is that we're getting young people come into the game, aspiring footballers come into the game, and then they bring their parents with them, and then that grows and that develops. We've gone from, say, 500 odd supporters to 1,000 supporters each game, which is a huge growth. And I think with the Asian Cup coming to town, we've got another opportunity there to grow it again. But it's also really, really nice and intimate, that size of crowd, particularly at Sam Kerr, where you know the faces and you actually feel that connection. And the players get a lot out of that, which is really special for us. And it's obviously working its magic because the girls really feel like Sam Kerr is a very, very big fortress for us.
And what were your thoughts on Izzy Dalton's comments about there being that uptick post-Matildas, but that has gone down a bit? Do you think A-League could do more to have capitalised?
Definitely. Our league seems to get forgotten in the whole process. So everyone obviously celebrates the success of the Matildas, which is unbelievable. But is that money being reinvested into the league in the way it should be? That's a question outside of my pay grade. But from a fan perspective, I think they could be doing more. But it's obviously a money issue. So where's the funding come from? I don't know, there's enough people putting their hands in pockets to invest in the sport. I don't know, but we've got to catch up to the AFLs and the rugby leagues and even the netball. I went to the netball and I was amazed at the size of the crowd and the interaction of the supporters. So, yeah, there's definitely a lot to learn, but we got to obviously celebrate the wins. I think the game has grown. It's gone from very much an amateur sport to a professional sport or semi-professional sport in a very short space of time. So hopefully that continues to grow and, everyone sort of feels part of that.
And where would you like to see that money reinvested ideally? Is that kind of in player salaries or other areas?
I think the quality of the league's got to improve, how it's run. I think we definitely need VAR. That needs to come in. I think we're probably the only league that doesn't have VAR. So we need that. So whatever needs to happen for that to happen, whatever stadiums we need to play at, we need to make that happen. And then I think the conditions for the players needs to improve. And then obviously the salary needs to improve so they don't have to work 2 jobs. It's a very difficult setup for the girls because they obviously want to be a footballer, and that's the pathway. But it's very, very difficult. And then you've got to juggle school and all those sorts of things. So it's a tough one.
Yeah. Is that the case for most of the girls that you know? Would all of them have at least one other job?
It depends on the person, I think, and their age. The younger ones would obviously live at home and they'd be less inclined to do that. As you get a little bit older, obviously you need to work and generate an income, particularly if you've if you've got a partner or family or whatever the case may be. So yeah, it's a difficult thing. The only thing I'll say to that is that the job's a pretty good job. I mean, to come in, they're not working on a factory line, for example. They're coming in, the sun's out, and we're training in the morning. We're training football every day. I think that's a pretty good job. But they do sacrifice their bodies, and there's all those sort of things post career they've got to look at, and so you need to make that worthwhile as well.
Would you like to see it implemented a full-time payment?
I think that's where it needs to go. Definitely, it's how they do it. That's going to be interesting, but it definitely needs to move in that direction. Definitely, 100%.
Does it feel like it's on the cards in the next year?
Well, I think it's getting closer. We're essentially a 9-month season now. So they've just got to think about how they make players' contracts 12 months long. And then that obviously will help them not having to go into the NPL and earn money through NPL as well, and manage things a little bit more professionally as well. So, injury prevention and building players up for the pre-season and all these sorts of factors will come into play as well.
So, Stephen, just finally on the Mariners, bearing in mind, as you said, there's such a good attacking force this year. Glory looked very good in the front third last week. Is there a chance you'll go across to Gosford and fight fire with fire?
Well, we had a 3-3 draw last season, and then we had the heat-sinking missile, if you remember.
Who could forget?
Yeah, which is interesting. Look, I think it depends on how the game's played. If we play the game how we want to play, it's going to be, I think we'll be right in the contest. But we're not going to die wondering. We're not going to sit back and wait for them. It's just not in our DNA. We want to get forward and get at them and be a nuisance.